Hello everyone, welcome to another Weather Wednesday. Boy, what a week. We have a show for you. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about what happened to Tropical Storm Cristobal, and we're going to get a in-depth look at all the wind that has been happening here in Colorado as well as the Midwest. So don't get blown away. We will talk a little bit about what is causing all this crazy weather going on. So first off, let's talk about Tropical Storm Cristobal. So here is our satellite image, and let's bring up our the United States here. I tell you, it really is nice to have our science on a sphere working well. It's really interesting to see what has been going on this June around the world, looking at the weather. So as we progress through this month here in the United States, you will see Tropical Storm Cristobal right here over Mexico, and it kind of stalled out. As I kind of move this around, you can see that it stalled out quite a bit over Mexico there, dropped almost 20 inches of rain in about 3 days worth. So there was a lot of flooding there, a lot of damage because of landslides and flooding there in Mexico. And then that storm moved up to Louisiana right there. Louisiana was well prepared for that. They knew it was coming. The forecast models did a great job of predicting where that storm was going to go. And if you remember, last time I mentioned that the United States has that it's very rare for a hurricane to hit the coast of the United States after having formed in the Gulf of Mexico there. And it still is true. Cristobal hit the coast of Louisiana as a tropical storm. So it did not gain enough strength to become a hurricane. So it hit Louisiana with the strength of a tropical storm. So sustained winds of about 40 to 50 miles an hour, gusts up to 65 to 70 miles an hour. And it did drop a lot of rain though. So they're looking at some flooding conditions up the Mississippi River Valley area. So what happened next is it moved north, and it moved pretty quick from the Gulf of Mexico straight up all the way to Wisconsin. This was only the third time that Wisconsin has gotten a tropical storm from the Gulf of Mexico, and so it tracked straight north pretty quick, dropping a lot of rain along the way. There was also a few tornadoes and waterspouts. That's a tornado over water that occurred in Florida, Louisiana area. It dropped up to 7 inches of rain in certain areas because of all that moisture that was wrapped up in that storm. So Tropical Storm Cristobal is now up over Canada. It's pushing out over the northeast, so it is gone from the United States. Any watchers, any viewers from Canada right now? Let us know in the comments. Love to hear from you. Now, let's take a look at what happened here in Colorado. Over the last few days, Colorado has been experiencing some very windy weather. In fact, on Saturday, Colorado experienced something that it has only seen 3 times in its history, and that is called a derecho. We're going to talk about a derecho and what that is, but let's take a look at the satellite image of that event. And here you can see just a line of clouds right there. Doesn't seem like a whole lot. So let's take a look at what has caused so much wind damage going on here in Colorado. So what happened is on Saturday morning, a line of thunderstorms developed over the southern part of southeast corner of Utah. And then this line of storms came up through Colorado, and it didn't get broken up because of the mountains. Typically, any systems that hits the Rocky Mountain range kind of gets broken up but it stayed together, and it even caused quite a bit of severe thunderstorms, even in the mountains, the high mountain areas. And it came across Colorado, up into Wyoming, Nebraska, South Dakota, and all the way up to North Dakota. This line of storms traveled almost 750 miles from where it started. That is one of the definitions for a derecho. So looking around here, here is a weather graph showing you the definition of a derecho. It is a Spanish word for meaning straight ahead. So these are thunderstorms, a line of thunderstorms that move straight ahead very quickly. It's a widespread, long-lived windstorm that is associated with a band of rapidly moving showers or thunderstorms. By definition, the wind damaged swath extends, if it extends more than 240 miles with wind speeds greater than 57 miles an hour, that is a derecho. So, in order to prove this, here are some weather graphs that have pulled up. These blue dots behind me over the United States here represent areas with significant wind gusts. So wind gusts over 57 miles an hour. And guess what? There were over 44 reported wind gusts across the Utah, Colorado, that whole storm track. There was over 44 wind gusts, which actually is a record for the most wind gusts over that signature line, that 57 miles per hour. There was more wind gusts reported to the Center for Severe Storms than any time in history. So this was a very significant event that happened on Saturday. As it came through, it knocked down a lot of trees and branches. Let me show you some pictures from that. Here is a radar image. Here is a radar image of that storm coming through. You can see its long length, its band of storms as it came through, setting some records for wind speeds in some gusts of wind in certain areas. Winter Park in Colorado had the highest recorded wind speed of 110 miles an hour. Copper Mountain up in the mountains had a wind gust of over 90 miles an hour. At the Denver International Airport, there was also wind gusts of over 78 miles an hour. So this packed a pretty big punch as it came through. So you can see this line of thunderstorms here as it's making its way through. Here's my house. This is what happened at my house. Lost a big branch. My producer Colleen's house, it knocked down a large branch, a pretty thick branch at her house. And a derecho is a very rare event. As I mentioned, this event has happened only 3 times in Colorado's history. In some areas of Colorado, this derecho was the first time that that city has experienced derecho. I think Colorado Springs. I don't know the record for Colorado Springs, but Colorado Springs does not get hit by something like that because of that mountain range, which I talked about. So, what causes the wind? Well, let's go back to the satellite imagery, but this time I'm going to bring up our GOES imagery, which is a really good high-resolution image of the United States here. And before I get too far ahead, if you guys have any questions as I move through this, please type those into the comments, into the chats that you find. We'd love to answer any questions that you have. So as I talk about wind here and some unique systems that have been happening the last couple days, if you have some questions, go ahead and submit those right now. All right, so here is that derecho event. You can see it developing. Let me bring up my magnifying glass here. as I get my Science on a Sphere here working again. So you can see that line right here, that cloud line. That is the derecho event just starting right now. And so here we go. Working for me, not working for me. Also, you can see over here tropical storm Cristobal as it's making its way up Louisiana here. So not only were we experiencing significant weather event, but we were also in other areas of the United States was also experiencing some severe weather too. And that created a pretty unique event where we had a low pressure here and a fairly strong low pressure system here. And if we can get our Science on a Sphere cooperating again, we would be able to see these two lows interact with each other. So let me try to restart my iPad program here real quick. All right, well, let's give it a break and see if it'll work. I have a little demonstration I want to show you guys real quick. We're talking about wind. Now, what causes wind is when air moves from a high pressure area to a low pressure area. And we talked about this before, where a low pressure is constantly spinning left. Do you remember that? Where a low pressure system spins left. Both start with the letter L. Now, as a low pressure system comes through, the density of the air changes. Now, if you have a cold air system, that cold air is more dense than warm air systems. So if you have a cold air system like we experienced on Monday, where there was a very cold and low pressure system coming in, that air is more dense than the warm air. And as it comes through, the change in the density, the change in that pressure from a high to a low, or a low pressure to a high, cold air to warm air, the difference in pressure is going to cause wind as the air tries to balance out. So here I have a little track that I borrowed from my son here. Who at home played with Hot Wheels tracks when you guys grew up? I tell you, it has a fun little toy to play with for physics. And that's what we're going to demonstrate right now, physics. Is if this area right here represents a high pressure area, and this represents a low pressure area, or more dense air because of cold, less dense because it's warm. If the pressure difference is just a little bit, then the air moving from one place to another is just going to move just a little bit. But if that pressure difference is great, and we go from one place to another, that air is going to pick up speed because that pressure difference is greater. It's going to pick up speed, it's going to hit you like a bus. And so the wind comes from the difference in pressure. Let's see if we can take a look at some of those pressure differences on Science on a Sphere here. Let's see if it's cooperating yet. Looks like it just quit on me. So it doesn't look like it's cooperating with me today. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the forecast, and we're going to let you know on our media platforms. And we encourage you guys to follow us and to see what else we got going on. We have a lot of cool programs that are happening coming up. First, we have an Explore Space experience, which is a kind of like a summer camp for kids, where we're going to do some space activities. That's coming up at the end of July. If you want to find out more information, you can visit us at discoverspace.org. Also, we're going to have a virtual Explore Space experience opportunity coming up. That's something to look for on our websites, discoverspace.org too. As well as recently we launched the CINE program, and so you can find out more about that on spacefoundation.org. Guys, we want you to follow us, keep track of us as we are putting a lot of stuff on our social media platforms. We look forward to hearing from you guys. Thanks for following us today on our Weather Wednesday. We look forward to talking to you guys next week as we talk a little bit about summer. We go from our spring season to our summer season celestially. And so we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for joining me on today's Weather Wednesday. Talk to you next time.